Is it harmful to lift weights if you are a chanter or just a singer? This is a question that a lot of people have, and I wanted to make this video because there are a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of teachers that might say that it's not good to lift weights if you are a singer. And I just wanted to clear that up. So, like I said, maybe a lot of the people that follow me are like young people. Maybe you lift weights, maybe you work out, and you're wondering like, can I chant and lift weights, or is it harmful for my voice? So that's what this video is going to be about. So the short answer, is it harmful? No, it's not, and it can actually help you as a chanter, but you have to do it in a certain way. So that's what I want to talk about. And I want this channel to be a place where you can go if you're a chanter. And I want you to be able to go here and to my channel and find answers to every question that you might have. And of course, I'm going to make more videos in the future, but I want to just be able to cover every subject that there is out there that has to do with chanting. So now I just want to talk about lifting weights. And I will tell you this from personal experience. So, of course, I don't look super big, right? I've been lifting weights for just a few years, and if you saw me before, like when I just started, I was very, very skinny. Now I am still skinny, but I have definitely gained some muscle. So what I am telling you is definitely from personal experience. And when I talk about lifting weights, I'm talking about lifting weights specifically for hypertrophy. So lifting heavy weights to build muscle. So if you're interested, if that's something that you do, this video is for you. So the short answer is it does not harm your voice to lift weights, but you have to do it a certain way. There's some things you have to follow. So here's what that is. First of all, there's some things to make sure not to do when you lift weights. And that's what I want to go over first. So what's the first thing not to do? That would be to make any sort of grunting noise like you see people do in the gym. Don't do that. That's the number one thing not to do, because basically you're putting pressure on your vocal cords, and you're taking this sort of resistance. You're taking this pressure that you feel when you are lifting a heavy weight, and you have to put that. Those of you who lift weights, you'll know what I'm saying. You feel like you have to put that pressure somewhere when you're lifting a really heavy weight. And what a lot of people do is they put the pressure basically right here. They put the pressure on this area. That's the worst place to put it because your vocal cords are very delicate, very sensitive. You don't want to put pressure. You don't want to risk damaging them. So any sort of grunting or any sort of tension in this area is not going to be good if you're lifting weights. So you might say, I need to put that resistance, I need to put that pressure somewhere. That's true, you do. And the way you would do that is by putting it on your breath. So when you're lifting a heavy weight, instead of putting that pressure on your vocal cords and closing the vocal cords, closing like the glottis and making a sort of vocalization as you are lifting weights, instead put it on your breath, and it will sound like a sort of loud or audible exhale as you are lifting a heavy weight. So you're taking that pressure, you're taking it off of here, you're kind of putting it on your breath. So that's the most important thing I would say, is don't make any sort of grunting noise that puts any pressure here. Same thing probably with your jaw. A lot of people will clench their jaw, clench their teeth. Try not to do that again. Try to put the pressure on your breath. So it will sound like an audible exhale. Like, so if you're lifting weights, it'll be more like a, or however you do it when you're lifting weights, but it's going to be putting the pressure on your breath instead of the voice, but you get the point. Another thing not to do is not to allow a shortening of any of the muscles around your larynx. So here's your larynx, this is your voice box as they call it, and there's a lot of muscles around that. And of course, it's all connected, right? So you don't want to cause a shortening of any muscles. And when you work out, it's possible for there to be a shortening of those muscles that you are working. So let's say, for example, you are training your chest, and if you do it the wrong way, you could cause, because they're connected. This area is connected to your chest, and if you train your chest improperly, you could cause a shortening here, so that there's almost a tightness or a contraction or a shortening of the muscles in this area. I want to be able to stretch my neck, and it should be very flexible. There should be room. It should feel loose. It shouldn't feel tight. Another thing is like the shoulders. You don't want to train your shoulders in such a way that it causes tightness or contraction right here, because your vocal cords are right here. And if you shorten this area and it becomes tightened, it's going to cause tension. So how do you navigate this? Well, first of all, you can make sure to stretch these muscles. So if you train your chest, you can stretch your chest. Make sure you keep those muscles stretched, and you want to stretch, after a workout rather than before. And naturally, if you lift weights, you want to have a good posture anyway. Like, you don't want to build muscle yet have bad posture. So that's kind of, factored in. Like, if you have good posture and you are able to stand up straight, those muscles shouldn't be shortening in an unnatural way. And then another thing to make sure that this doesn't happen, so like stretching is good, but in addition to that, you want to make sure you're training the right muscles, and I'll talk about this also in a minute. But you don't want to have muscle imbalances, right? So if you train your chest, and your chest is strong, you don't want to have a weak back, because if your back is weak, but your chest is strong, there's going to be a weakness, and there's going to be a sort of compensation, and that can cause a shortening of the muscles on one side, because the other side is weak. So you want to equally train all of your body so that all of your muscle groups are strong. Another thing you should make sure not to do, and some people might not like this, but if you're working out, and if you're a chanter, you should not train your abs. You shouldn't try to get a six-pack. I've never trained my abs. I've never done anything with my abs. And why is that? Because if you have a six-pack, if you're trying to get a six-pack, what happens with a six-pack? Do you think that area is very flexible, very pliable, or loose? It's probably not. It's probably, firm, and contracted. And you don't want that, because your abdomen and midsection area is very important when you are chanting, when you're using your voice. You need to be able to, inhale, and that whole midsection area should be very pliable and flexible for your diaphragm, which is located like right here, to lower, which is what happens when you are singing. When you are breathing properly, you are engaging the diaphragm, and it lowers and then it comes out. And in order to do that, your midsection area needs to be very loose. That's not to say you can't strengthen the abs. Various things like push-ups and other exercises will strengthen the abs, and that's good, but you should not try to get a certain hypertrophy or building muscle on your abs, because that could cause some issues. Another thing not to do is to do any heavy training on your neck, kind of for the same reason as that you don't want to directly try to get hypertrophy, muscle growth in this area, because your vocal cords are right here, and that could be an issue. So you don't want to do any direct neck training. And same thing with if you train your shoulders, just be careful not to go too heavy, not to go too intense, because your shoulders are right here, and then your neck is right here, your voice is right here. So just be mindful of how you train your shoulders, again, not to cause a shortening here. The last thing to be careful about is your diet. So a lot of people who want to build muscle, you might have a specific type of diet. That might include a ton of carbs, right? And this is more just a health-related type of thing, because if you don't have a healthy body, it's going to affect your voice. But you want to make sure you're like eating healthy. You want to make sure maybe not to have too many carbs. It really depends on the person. I know a lot of people will eat a lot of carbs, a lot of rice. That could be harmful. It could harm your digestion. You have to see what works for you personally. If you see that you're having certain negative symptoms, it like digestive symptoms or various things like that, it could be because of your diet. So you might want to maybe, like, for example, cut the carbs, not eat so many carbs. And then along with that, also a lot of people have protein shakes or whatever. A lot of protein shakes are not very healthy, I will admit. So anything that's like soy protein isolates or pea protein, a lot of that, like vegan protein, I will tell you that it's not going to be good for your digestion for most people. Again, you have to see what works for you, but generally it's not going to be good for your digestion how most conventional protein powders are made. But there's good news. There's an alternative, and that's going to be bone broth protein powder. Look into that. It should be at the store, any grocery store. Bone broth protein powder. It's from bone broth, basically. It's very healthy. Not only is it a good source of protein, it's also has a lot of health benefits. So I would suggest, if you take protein powder, switch to bone broth protein powder. I know people take creatine too. I take creatine. I don't see an issue with creatine. I don't think there's anything wrong with creatine. So you have to make sure you drink enough water, to kind of, because it can dehydrate you. Again, see how you feel with your digestion. If you take creatine monohydrate and you have digestive issues, you could try switching to a different creatine, which is hydrochloride, and see if that helps. But the most common creatine is monohydrate. You have to see what works with you personally. Okay. So here's how to work out in such a way that it'll actually help you. It could actually help you with your chanting. First of all, you want to train all of your body equally so that not only do you build muscle, but you have a strong body. So like I was saying, if you train your chest, you also want to train your back, because your back muscles are important for not only your posture, for keeping your body upright, but also for the way you breathe. Because when you breathe, many muscles are involved. You have the abdominal muscles, but you also have the lat muscles that are involved when you breathe. So you want to make sure all of the parts of your body are equally strong. You don't want to have a very strong, large chest, but not train your back, right? So, and like I said, you want to make sure that your posture is good, because especially your neck. And this is something I really, have been focusing on as well. Because if your neck is in any way not aligned properly, well, your vocal cords are here. So for example, your neck is kind of forward, kind of bowed forward or whatever. You're going to want to fix that, because that's going to cause tension. You want to be, have a straight posture, and that's important. And that is part of how to make sure you have that, is by training your muscle groups equally so that you have, good posture. Another thing is, when you are working out, you can practice deep breathing, and that's going to actually help you as a chanter. So you want to breathe deep, right? You're going to take a deep breath, I assume, before you lift a heavy weight. Practice taking a breath really deep into your body, rather than like taking a breath into your chest, which expands your chest, which we would call clavicular breathing. Try breathing more deeply, so you almost feel the breath lower in your body, so that basically your internal organs are expanding outward to make room for your diaphragm, which is lowering, because you're using your diaphragm, you're using your full lung capacity to breathe. And it's helpful to, when you do inhale, practice inhaling through your nose. And another important thing, when you take a deep breath, don't necessarily hold it in your throat, because that could be bad. Like, if if you take a deep breath and it's a very shallow breath, you could almost feel it here, like choking you. That's kind of not what I'm talking about. That's not the way to do it. If you take a deep breath properly, you feel it deep in your lower body, your lower back, and that is the correct way to breathe. And of course, cardio is good also if you are working out. Cardio is good, like I said, to work on your breathing. So the last thing to do is specifically training the muscles in your body that help with good posture, like I was talking about earlier. And that would be muscles like the back and the rotator cuff. So the rotator cuff is here. It helps you with standing, straight instead of having rounded shoulders. And that's really important to, if you are using your voice. So if you are a chanter and you want to lift weights and you want to work out, there's nothing wrong with that. Just be mindful of these things that I talked about and everything will be fine. If you're interested in just working with me one-on-one to learn Byzantine chant or to learn how to use your voice in a healthy way, just click the link in the description.